Simon Patrick Tipping, commonly known as Paddy Tipping, the Nottinghamshire Police and Crime Commissioner and ex-Labour MP for Sherwood, came to our village to address people's concerns about the rising crime and public disorder. I'm going to start with his response to my point about police numbers and duties, and then we're going to address some of the other points that we disagree on.
Right, can't wait for this one, Daniel.
I'd like to make a point about since the 60s, I think it were Roy Jenkins, Home Secretary, reformed police force, and it's turned it into sort of like a fire brigade now, where you react after the crime's happened. When Robert Peel set it up to be preventative, to patrol the streets on foot, to prevent crime and disorder. Since then, I mean, there's been billions thrown at police. They've had all new squad cars, toys, helicopters, and crime just keeps going up. I think if they got back to what they were supposed to do, patrol the streets on foot, a lot of these issues have been non-existent. Well, they had close relations. I mean, I knew police officers when I was a kid. They knew my mum and dad, knew all bad apples. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I don't live in a posh area. I live in the middle of Nottingham. I live in Sneinton, Upper Sneinton, the posher bit of Sneinton. But we've got a neighbourhood police team there. Some of the people, the PCSOs and the officers, have been there for a number of years, and it's exactly your point. They know the good guys and they know the bad guys.
Oh, he's got bobbies in his community. Of course he has. Well, where's ours? There's an army of traffic wardens patrolling the streets, collecting revenue for the state, a job that the police used to do once upon a time. They've also been relieved a lot of the duties that they used to have. The council does them now, and private security firms. They've got tens of thousands of office staff. And it's like, what do they actually do these days?
We haven't got tens of thousands of office staff.
Well, since the 60s, there's been tens of thousands of office staff to deal with the paperwork that police officers were apparently struggling with.
No, we've reduced more than police officers the number of office staff who works for us.
I think there was a bit of confusion here. I was talking about tens of thousands of office staff nationally that have been employed to deal with the tedious paperwork that was supposedly tying police officers down. But I think he thought I was suggesting that these had been employed just in the Nottinghamshire area.
And the reason we've done it is because we've brought technology in. I don't know whether Martin will pull his BlackBerry out of his pocket. He's got a smart BlackBerry. It's so smart, I can't use it.
It's not smart enough to prevent public disorder, burglaries, vandalism and smack dealers.
If you're a bit cheeky, go and have a look in one of the response vehicles. Where you have a glove compartment in your car, you'll see there's an onboard computer on, and we're moving very rapidly to bring in lots more new technology. You know, well, hang on a minute.
Officers on ground to prevent crime.
Well, I was just going to make that point. You know you're in trouble if you're talking to a police officer and you can see your face on the camera that's on them, and all frontline officers now have a camera on the front, and again that stuff can be used directly into the court to save the paperwork.
How's all this technology working out for us? And how many more millions are you going to spend on this technology and all the other technology you've been lavished with over the last 50 years? But just a bit more technology. A bit more cash, a few more extra police officers. That'll do it. That's been the mantra since the 60s, when the police retreated from the streets and crime has risen exponentially. Saying that a bit more will fix all this, that's called being delusional. We pay you to prevent crime and disorder, not act after the crime has been committed, which creates a demand that can never be fulfilled.
So we're on it, we're with it, and we take the point that you make.
You take the point I'm trying to make, but you don't refute it. It's the only point worth considering because the evidence clearly shows that foot patrols are far more effective at preventing crime and keeping people's property safe than unit beat policing. Policing in cars with radios, sold to us on the pretense that it would lower crime and make it able for police to arrive there faster.
By his presence, he prevents some crime. You can remove him from the beat for quite a time without there being an appreciable effect. One conspicuous patrol car will do the work of at least 5 uniform foot patrols when it comes to prevention.
Well, how's that working out for you? Now let's go through some of the other responses to people's questions and see if we can challenge those too. It's a long video, so I'm going to skip to all the main points.
There's a group of people in my office who ring 101 every week, okay? They do it. And I know that the situation isn't satisfactory, and that's why we're putting extra time and extra resources into it. And I know some people are kept waiting, but I also know, because I've got the figures in front of me, that 60% of people who dial 101 get answered in 30 seconds.
Let's ring 101.
Thank you for calling 101. To be connected to Derbyshire Police, press 1, or for Nottinghamshire Police, press 2. If you require an alternative force, press hash. Good morning. Welcome to Nottinghamshire Police. If you know the extension number, please dial it now, or press 1 to say the name of the person or department you require. If you are reporting a crime or incident, press 2. If you would like to speak to the operator, then please hold, or press hash to hear this menu again. If there is a crime in progress or an emergency, please hang up and dial 999. If you would like to report a crime and remain anonymous, then please call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. You may also find help and advice on our website. Please continue to hold if you need to speak to an operator. Thank you for contacting us. Unfortunately, we are experiencing a high volume of calls. Our team is working hard to answer your call as quickly as possible, but you may find our waiting times for non-emergency calls are a little longer than usual. Please do not hang up or redial, as you are now in a queue and will be answered as soon as possible, so please hold.
A high volume of
At times like
calls.
this, we answer 90% of all calls under 5 minutes and 99% in under 10 minutes.
It's 10 to 10 on a Wednesday morning. 10 to 10 on a Wednesday morning, this is. It's not like it's Friday night or Saturday night. Wait, yobbos are out. No. 99% of calls are answered under 10 minutes, 90% are answered under 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to hang up here. It's been 2 minutes 30 seconds.
Imagine I rung this number once and nobody answered. I was ringing and ringing and ringing. They were setting fireworks off just down the street, aiming them at cars. I'm going to hang up anyway, I think. I'll keep it going. Aiming fireworks at cars. Load of youths as they were driving up the street. They were flying past me. Nobody answered. 3 minutes in, I've not spoken to a bobby. I've not spoken to anyone yet. I'm going to talk there. It's pathetic.
Now we need to do better than that, and that's why we put extra people up into the control room, more than what we budgeted for, because people ought to get a service.
Extra in the control room. We need a bobby with a phone, a couple of streets away or somewhere in the village. You have plenty on show at football matches and demonstrations, but not in the community. Here's what Deputy Commissioner Craig Mackey said. Don't expect police to come out after a crime if you're healthy, middle-aged and speak good English. That's the Evening Standard. Google that and read the article.
Now the essential argument, maybe Glenn would like to comment on this because it's an operational matter rather than one for me, but as I said to you, the nature of crime is changing. If there was a terrorist attack in Nottinghamshire, and God forbid there won't be one, we would be hard pressed.
The unlikelihood of a terrorist attack in Nottingham is not an excuse to police the streets everywhere else, like you're originally intended to. Why would you need more than 20 or 30 policemen patrolling the streets of Nottingham city centre looking for terrorists? There are 2,160 constables in Nottinghamshire to just over 1 million people. That's one constable for every 429 people in Nottinghamshire. Huthwaite's got a population of 7,500. We don't need 17.5 police officers patrolling our village. 2 would suffice. The other 15 can be looking for terrorists, if they want, patrolling around in squad cars doing whatever they do. Foot patrols should be the main priority of the police, because preventative patrolling is what the police was designed for.
As I said to you early on, the big growth in crime isn't on the streets, it's online.
What crimes are those then? Mean words that might offend someone? You're not worried about mean words and offensive words on the streets? Weird that. Safer to be sat down in an office, scouring the internet, than be patrolling the streets in all weathers. I know what your game is. And why are they policing social media anyway? It's not a right that needs protecting by the state. It's a privilege. People choose to use social media. If somebody says something that hurts your feelings, block them. Don't go on there. It's a choice, a privilege.
And traditionally, the police haven't been good at that, but we're putting extra resources into that.
The police are supposed to protect property rights and enforce common law. Social media is a privilege, not a right that needs protecting. Extra resources for that. Everyone else can go screw themselves. Your car or van keeps getting broken into. Sorry, we can't help you because somebody might say something mean on the internet.
And as I said right at the beginning, the reports of serious sexual crime, not just in Nottinghamshire, but nationally, is going up. That's a really important crime. And whether it occurred 20, 30 years ago, we've got to investigate it. Now we've got only a limited number of officers.
He's talking about Operation Daybreak and others, if you want to go and research it, historical child sex abuse that happened in Nottinghamshire area in the 1950s, to which most of the records were destroyed in 1978. Well, a Freedom of Information request was released on this, to which 1 DCI, Detective Chief Inspector, 1 DS, a Detective Sergeant, and 3 DCs, Detective Constables, are investigating, according to this Freedom of Information request made in 2014. Yet it's constables that we need to patrol the streets. So what you've just said, Paddy, is complete horse shit. Excuse my French.
So if you want to do these things, you've got to stop doing some of these things. And last week, Nottinghamshire Police were inspected by the Inspectorate. They come a couple of times a year. And what they said to me was, well, Paddy, you know, what we're worried about is that the neighbourhood policing is being eroded. And I said, yeah, of course it's being eroded, because we've got less officers and because we're doing other things.
Cuts in police funding putting public safety at risk, and of course this is one area of public safety. Peter Hitchens, you go on that.
Not in themselves, no. And I think we should be careful not to allow ourselves to be diverted into campaigns for extra funding. The problem with the police, and the problem with the courts, and the problem with our entire criminal justice system is that for 50 years they've been doing the wrong thing. And however hard you work at doing the wrong thing, however vigorously you pursue it, however much money you pour into it, it won't work. The police force of this country was set up by Robert Peel with a simple purpose: to prevent crime. Since it abandoned its function of preventing crime by preventive patrolling in the 1960s, under the instructions of the then Home Secretary Roy Jenkins, it has become a reactive fire brigade force which waits for things to happen and reacts to them. The courts are the same. They wait for things to happen. They cease to deter them from happening by a visible presence of policing. They cease to punish them when they do happen, because once you stop deterring them, they become much more common. This is also the reason why our prisons are incredibly overfull, because exactly the same thing has happened. They've ceased to deter. The people don't go to them until they've already become habitual criminals, and they are impossible to empty, and they're also impossible to build fast enough to hold.
It would be odd to put them in prison.
We've got a complete breakdown of
So,
And it's not. And I was just on this.
put them in prison before
Can I
they
just
become
get one point on
criminals?
this point of resources?
Right.
Before the police reforms instituted by Roy Jenkins, we had fewer police. We have fewer police than we have now by a long way, either as per head of the country or as a total. Those of us who remember those times, and alas, I'm now old enough to do so, can tell you that this country was policed far more effectively on a far smaller budget in that time than it is now. Try and sum up the whole point here. Quantity isn't everything. As I can tell you from very painful experience, if they give you the wrong antibiotic for a disease, it doesn't matter how much they give to you, it still won't make it better until they change the drug. Until they change the drug, nothing will happen. We're doing the wrong thing. What people want in this country is a presence of authority on the streets, preventing disorder and preventing crime. There isn't actually all that much. As I think Dawn probably knows, there isn't actually all that much that the police officer can do for you after a crime has been committed. He can't put your home back together after it's been burgled. What we want is for police to prevent them being burgled in the first place.
Very quick. So I've got to chair.
Every incident that comes in is assessed on its own merits. So it might be that somebody stealing milk might be the priority, so there and then we've got a chance. It might be that the burglary, because it happened yesterday afternoon, isn't the same priority at that time, and that's how we grade our response. So any incident can be the most important at any given time.
There's no set where it's kind of what's going on at the time.
And it's all down to what is the risk of harm. If there's somebody there with a knife, for instance, that's obviously really high, and we will get there as soon as we can.
What he's saying here is that petty crime isn't important to them. But for the lifelong tax-paying elderly lady who is the victim of petty crime, the crime is often not petty for them.
Unfortunately, we are now getting more officers with taser available to us, because traditionally the armed officers have carried taser, but they tended to be around the city where they had the gun issues. Well, now that's coming locally. So we are going to be able to deal more effectively with those high-risk things without hurting anybody.
Oh, great. So when a stranger in an intimidating, militarised black police uniform shows up with his weapon of choice, we'll be made to feel much safer. Trunction's not good enough anymore.
Yeah, I moved into the area about 4 years ago. And since then, I've been a direct victim of crime 5 times. First time was 2 years ago. I had a £15,000 motorbike stolen from my garage attached to my house, and I did not see one single police officer. I spoke to a PCSO, very nice lady, I forget her name, but I heard nothing of it. Now, I would consider that as a burglary because it's attached to my house and not just as a vehicle theft, but yet I still had no contact with police whatsoever. Because of that, out of my own pocket, I've had to spend around about £5,000 for house alarms, CCTV and stuff like that. Since I've had the CCTV installed, I must have at least 10 different times of someone trying to steal my car, trying to get into my car, trying to get to my neighbour's car. We try and ring 101, and like the gentleman said, we don't get an answer. And then you said that report it online. I reported it online to the Ashfield Police website on Facebook in May, and I still don't have an answer for it.
It's a different thing to the Facebook thing. It's actually through the police internet site. The Facebook site isn't monitored.
So who actually monitors that then? If that's a service that is provided online, then who actually monitors it and who polices it?
Well, let me explain, Jamie. I mean, it just I find it fascinating that you can do loads and loads of stuff online, but until this year, you've not been able properly to contact the police online. And here in Nottinghamshire, we're one of the early experiments of people reporting online. So if you report online, it goes into the same staff as run the control room. And it's early doors yet. This has only been running 2 to 3 months. But again, it takes the pressure off the telephone.
The guy's concerns and problems aren't addressed. He's just told to go on the internet and report it. So the fire brigade police force may or may not show up days later to take a statement. How much are all these new systems costing exactly? I thought you were underfunded.
We've had lots of issues with Facebook crashing, okay, but now we've got this new system, we're much better with it. In fact, we were going through it again today, weren't we? And looking at the messages that come through. And you'll get a generic one, but with the control room, how they are, and I spoke about threat, risk and harm, your motorbike being stolen the night before, whenever, but as a team, we will revisit burglaries. And it might take us 4 or 5 days to get around to that and the other incidents we have to deal with.
4 or 5? This is utter madness. The stolen goods will be sold by then. A bobby would be there in minutes taking notes, knowing possible suspects who's been lurking about. And he knows who's willing to inform after he's spent a year or two building close relations with the community, who we can trust, who we can't trust. A system that worked great.
If you Facebook us, we'll make contact with you. What does it show? Can we come and have a look? If you've got a photo, can you email us the photo in? To us, not to the control room. Because we're interested and that's where we build our intelligence picture up.
The best intelligence comes from the communities. Or at least it used to, when you used to do your jobs correctly.
I know for a fact certain flats up there, there's drug dealing in the flats. But there's no, I can't talk to any of you people without ringing 101.
No, you can. You can email in.
I want to one.
We've got. You can either ring us on our extension, on extension. If you ring and speak to the control room, they can put you through to us. If we're on duty, we'll answer the phone. If not, there is a local MPT email box, which is Ashfield MPT.
Just tell them what MPT means.
Sorry, Neighbourhood Policing Team. So the email box is Ashfield MPT at Nottinghamshire. I'll write it down for you and give it to you a bit. That email box is monitored by the local sergeants on a daily basis. So you might send it in at 6 o'clock of an evening, might not get picked up to the following day, but if it's non-urgent scenario, we will get back to you the following day.
So to deal with drug dealers on his street or outside his home, he has to call someone who may or may not be there, but will call back the following day.
I feel sorry for you police because there's no deterrent whatsoever when you get to court. And I feel sorry for policemen because...
Do you know what I've always said? What happens at court can be disappointing, but it's never changed how I like police. I'll continue to arrest people, though it's been a while, but we'll continue to do whatever we can. What happens at the court is a matter for other people.
I know, that's it.
It's disappointing for the victims, and that's who I feel most sorry for. Don't feel sorry for us because we'll keep cracking on. Yeah. It's the victims I feel sorry for that feel let down.
Yeah,
but we'll keep trying.
Something we can agree on here, criminals aren't punished when they are charged. 56% of offenders go back to prison after a year of release. That's 56%. Look at the others. Once in prison, offenders should long for release. Once released, they should wish never to go back and should advise others to stay out. They should not have access to television or CD players, mobile phones, a pool table or drugs. All liberties should be earned by good behaviours, manners, self-discipline and obedience. But, as per usual, the liberal reformers have continued to destroy any justice for victims of crime by making criminals victims themselves.
What's wrong?
Sorry, sir, he says he doesn't want to go in the back, he gets car sick.
In the year 1900, the prison population was 17,435. In 2017, it is 85,975. And that's even with gentler sentences, more lenient court systems and drug laws, and the introduction of tagging and antisocial behaviour orders.
I mean, Ashfield Police has a Facebook page, and people do messages in with exactly what you've said. I've got CCTV of this, and we'll come and have a look and see if it's anything we can work with. But I don't know if you're on our page, the Ashfield Police page.
No. But Nick, we shouldn't have to come and have a look. We're getting to a situation where we can do what you want to do, is send us the stuff and we can look at it straight away.
We shouldn't have to come and have a look because technology. Yeah. There's no wonder the police aren't respected anymore. They aren't part of the community anymore. It goes on and on with the same old unhelpful claptrap. Have a nice day.
When I was in the court at Highbury yesterday, several of the people who were up before the magistrates already had long strings of offences to their name.
Okay,
one was actually on a suspended prison sentence. These people have encountered authority again and again and again, and they find it laughable. And they're right to find it laughable because it is laughable.
Very short.
What I would not like to hear from the police anymore, though, thank you very much, is stuff about taking the law into your own hands. Who does the law belong to? It's ours in the first place. We give it to them so that they can exercise it on our behalf. When and where they fail, and on this matter they have substantially failed, they can't really complain if groups of residents of streets take up their own defence. And I really do think there should be less of this, and it's been for a long time, people who've tried to defend themselves against burglars have been hauled in by the police and charged with offences. It ought to stop. It ought to stop for good, this nonsense. We ought to be allowed to defend ourselves a lot more if they can't do it for us. There is no basis on which most people being brought up in this country can now judge between right and wrong. So we're left with ad hoc ethics, which is practical atheism. There is no reason to believe that anything is particularly right or particularly wrong, except insofar as it suits you. And that's what we've got. It seems to me to be a very strong argument in favour of the other thing. But that is right at the bottom of the huge pile of mistakes which our society has made. Though you might well say that it was at the foundation of them, but they have all been based on the idea that you could get away with society without a fundamental moral position to back it up. The legal position falls, the education system falls, the family falls, all the things which hold up a society and a civilization fall, and then you get a night like Saturday night and Sunday night, and you suddenly see, revealed as in a flash of lightning, just how far your society has decayed, though people like David still deny there's anything wrong.